Henry David Thoreau said that many men fish their whole lives without realizing that it's not fish that they're after. And I'm going to go ahead and say that many boys, girls, men, women, whatever, go to school their whole lives without realizing that it's really not learning that they're after. We listened to a talk today about deschooling one's mind, and it featured this author who wrote a book having to do with the education of millionaires. And I had a number of thoughts listening to that, but I think right now I'm going to think about a vision that I'm having for myself. I'm going to dream a little bit. I envision a space for education to take place where the Socratic method isn't a prescription. I'm almost through a teacher preparation school, and of course Socratic circles and the Socratic method is talked about to some degree, but there isn't a whole lot of reading of Plato's dialogues. And a little background about myself: I became passionate about learning, about writing, about reading, about thinking because of this figure. I encountered Socrates and Plato's writings about him. I saw authentic learning happening in these dialogues. And Plato has a theory, the theory of recollection, where we basically are brought into this world knowing everything, but at a very young age we forget it all, and we spend our whole lives remembering it. Now, if that's the case, my process to learn is really a process of recollection, simply finding the answers inside myself. And the reason I went into teaching is because I was really interested in experiencing this. And as the Socratic method stands, you ask a series of, quote unquote Socratic questions, and the teacher leads, right, the student to some set of answers, or student-centered learning takes place, or something of that nature. But I'm not sure if that's really the Socratic method. What the oracle told Socrates was that he was the wisest of all men. And the reason he was the wisest of all men is because Socrates admittedly said he didn't know. And I think that alone is something to think about. And my head is kind of spinning, when I try to follow conversations of, people operating inside of a school district, trying to follow rules and regulations. When I listen to, people that are homeschooling and unschooling and deschooling. And, where my mind goes is just the terminological tangle that we're in. That's another piece that I read when I was in high school by Hayakawa that talks about terminological tangles and how so much miscommunication and unclarification occurs because of the language that we're using. And as far as dreaming goes, I just really hope that within education we can simplify the language a little bit. And I think that's what we're trying to do. I think that's part of the effort of what we're trying to do at the BU House. And in this effort to, essentially be ourselves and find the answers within. I dream that, I can experience, an authentic Socratic moment with myself as a student, to witness it happening in someone else. I was thinking about the dialogue, the Meno, this morning, and Socrates' encounter with the slave boy in that dialogue, and how he shows that the slave boy knew the answer to the math problem all along. It was just a matter of him seeing it and realizing it. And I mean, I definitely think that there's benefits to traditional education. Like I was talking to Amy about, I think it's a valid distinction to make that going to college isn't necessarily designed for job training. And getting a liberal education doesn't necessarily have a paycheck at the other end of it. But the way the system has been designed, it's become so bureaucratic, and it's become such a capitalistic endeavor, and one where individuals, groups, and organizations are all seeking profits, that we have forgotten, I think, some of the ideals that were outlined for us in the 19th century and even before the Enlightenment. I was thinking about Emerson and Thoreau before. I mean, my reading of these thinkers, these students of Plato, as it is, or were, or whatever, is to liberate our minds. And for me, I mean, that's a large, if not everything, that's, I'm trying to liberate my mind from the shackles of not only conformity, because I'm a very conformed person, I'm playing by the rules, I'm conforming in a number of contexts, but to liberate my mind so that I can be happy, and I am happy. I'm extremely happy, and that's not because of knowledge. That's not because of information I've been given from anyone else. I'm happy largely because of the spiritual experiences that I've had and continue to have, and that's largely the biggest source of my education. And that doesn't have anything to do with school. However, the more that I read, the more light that tends to be shed on any given subject. I just have more ways of viewing the world, the more perspectives that I can see, and that happens in books, that happens in watching things on the internet and talking to people face to face. Reading is happening all the time, and it's just a matter of me keeping my mind open. And so that's my dream. That's my dream for today and for the future, is that things will just become more simple, and that my mind will continue to become more open to where I can see things in a more simple light.